Hey, everybody, and welcome to Frame This Podcast. I'm Philippe.
My name is Nate.
And he almost butchered this introduction.
But we're keeping it. I'm definitely posting that later.
Oh, God. Okay. And today we'd like to introduce everybody to the world. He's probably already world-renowned by now, or at least in the New York area. Mr. Erik Grendahl, welcome. Say hello to everybody.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and do this.
Right on. So
when you were reading Beowulf as a kid, was that weird for you?
No. It was. Okay. Well, that's normally how I explain my name to people. Like they're always like, "Oh, Erik Grendahl, like the Beowulf monster." I'm like, "Yeah, sort of." Like it's, Grendel, and technically my pronunciation is Grendahl. It stems from like a Norwegian. It's like two words. I have a Norwegian colleague at Julliard I was talking to about this, and it comes from like Gren is a word, and then Dal is a word, and it's like branch valley or something. I have to look it up again.
Oh, I thought it meant don't fuck with me because I'm taller than everyone else. So move out of the way.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's originally hyphenated.
Yeah, maybe it was.
We're supposed to be hyphenated. I don't know.
I'd have to look it up.
Besides, what is the study of names? I forget what it is.
The history of words is entomology, but I don't know what the study of names is.
Is there a doctor in the house? Can they tell us? Abby's not here.
There is a doctor in the house, but she's in a meeting.
She's in a meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Erik, tell us about what you do and enlighten our listeners to the world of opera and opera performance. Yeah. It's been a day.
Where do you want me to start? Just
where do you stop? I feel like there's so much that we could get into.
Yeah. I mean, right now my day-to-day is a little different because I'm in school, but so just a bit about my background. I went to James Madison University and majored in voice, where I met Phil.
He still got it.
And
yes,
we
met
together actually my junior year, his senior year. And so after, I have a bit of a different path. Normally, at least in the U.S., the path for opera singers is you usually study at university, and then you normally go to a grad school program right after undergrad, because unlike a lot of, I guess, performing, other performing arts like Broadway, for example, like you could potentially right after undergrad, you graduate, you're about 22 years old, and then you could move to New York and you could start auditioning, and you could probably land at least a role in, maybe a chorus or an ensemble or something like that. And then you just start kind of taking it from there and jumping to other gigs and auditioning and things like that. Because really at least, and it's true of pretty much almost every other profession too, you have to do it when you're young. Like if you think about professional sports, and the same is true of like Broadway musical theater, is you really got to crack that door, or you have to really go out there from a young age. And that's the kind of the crazy thing about opera is it's the opposite. It's it kind of depends on like voice types as well. Like a bass voice takes so long to develop, and the roles for basses are usually like fathers or all these other things. So you can't have like a 22-year-old bass singing, supposedly like being someone's father on stage. It just doesn't work, and their voice is not in a place to do that. So I kind of went down really far tangent there. But so usually the path is you need to do as much training as you can between like your undergrad and until you turn like 30, because that's usually, at least for men, that's usually about the age, late 20s, early 30s, when you'll start getting considered for work and start being, hired to sing opera roles, because it's not like musical theater where you're mic'd. You are singing unamplified over in, houses of, the Met is up to like 5,000 people or something like that. So it takes a while to train your body and train your voice to be able to do that and to carry over an orchestra. And the older you get, the more mature your voice starts to become, and the better you can you figure out how to project over the orchestra. And so usually the path is, you stay in school for as long as you can. And a lot of people will they'll do an undergraduate, they'll do a master's, and then they'll try to jump into a young artist program. They have some of those like in the States. Some of the big ones in the States are, Washington National Opera has one. Houston Grand Opera has a really good one. LA Opera has one. The Metropolitan Opera in New York has one, although that's very, it's competitive and it's very selective. Chicago Lyric has a good one. Pittsburgh, Virginia Opera. There are a lot of young artist programs that people after their master's program will then go and go into that. Or there's always the option of a lot of singers will move to Germany or Austria, where the arts and opera are state funded, and there's over like 200 opera houses in Germany,
right?
And there's a chance that, you could break into what they call a fest contract and actually be contracted by a specific opera house. And then you just stay there and you sing a ton of roles.
It's definitely a different culture in Europe versus here when it comes to opera and
100%. Yeah.
The job market and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So my experience, when I told my dad I wanted to be an opera singer, when I was like 16 years old, he was shocked. The more I found out is actually he studied opera when he was in undergrad. And
did you have any idea before he told you that? You told him?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's always had a great voice, and but I had no idea that he trained in classical voice. And so when I told him that, he was like, that's all well and good. You can definitely go for that, but you need to have a fallback plan. Because he was like, that was probably one of my biggest mistakes, was I didn't have a clear idea of what else I could do if that didn't work out. And for the vast majority of singers and just kind of any sort of performing artist in general, is you have to have another set of skills. And so I was very fortunate to have that advice early on, and I took it to heart. And at James Madison University, I double majored in music and statistics. And so
that's a spread.
Yeah, it is a spread. Music, and they always tell you
want to talk about spreads.
Yeah, I did okay in like my, what class I forget what categorical data analysis. We did a lot of odds and things. I did okay in that class. I didn't do as well as I probably should have, but now with all the sports gambling, it's like, I wish I had done a little better. So after my undergrad, I didn't feel particularly ready to go back and do a master's, and knowing that, opera is the long game. You just have to try to stay in it as long as you can. I worked full time for a data analytics company as a product manager, and continue to do that, part time to help fuel my singing obsession, is what I like to call it. And so I bet day to day for opera singers is really, it depends on, now with the pandemic, it's performing arts are still really suffering. And so I'm very fortunate to be in school or at least in school right now. And even though it's, it may not be what it was, prior to COVID happening, it's still a lot better than, some of my colleagues who, once the pandemic hit and all the theaters shut down, everything shut down, they were just completely out of work. And then it's like, well, I have all these contracts that I was expecting to get some money out of, and it's like, what do I do now? So, I hope that kind of answers the question. I just rambled on for a little bit, but
no, that was great, man. Yeah, that was great.
We've had a couple guests on that just, you ask them an open-ended question and they just riff for a long time, but it's okay. That's why you're here.
That's what, yeah. I love it. I love it.
Have you always been, I mean, you said you mentioned to your dad that you wanted to go into opera, but were you in choir in like middle school and high school? Like, when did that start?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So my dad is, he's currently a Methodist minister. And so so growing up, usually that means like, there used to be Methodist ministers would move like every like 2-3 years to various churches throughout the state. And so I grew up in Virginia, and we were fortunate that, the first place that he was appointed, we were there for like 10 years, which is good because, it's always good for a family when you can stay in one place for a while. But the not so great thing, at least for opera singing. Yeah, no, exactly. It's very similar to the military. I have a lot of friends whose parents were in the military, and we commiserate a little bit on the lifestyle. But I can't even complain that much because we were in one place for 10 years, which is, unheard of. And so that was on the bright side, but sort of the not so bright side was in rural Virginia, and there weren't a lot of arts. And so like my high school didn't have a choir program until I was a senior in high school. Like I didn't have any choir in middle school, but we did have like a band program. And so that was helpful. I played like trumpet and French horn. Oh
man.
Yeah.
Erik on the French horn.
Yeah, man. That was like my first. That was like
my first musical love. But yeah, wow.
Yeah. Do oh shoot. Tchaikovsky, Little Red Riding Hood, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's like in like grade school. I think it must have been like 3rd or 4th grade. No, wait, maybe it's not Little Red Riding Hood.
I mean, Peter and the Wolf?
Peter and the Wolf. Yes, Peter and the Wolf. Yeah. So the wolf theme was on the French horn. And so I was like, that's so cool. I was like, what instrument is that? I want to play that instrument. And they're like, that's a French horn. I was like, all right, I'm going to play the French horn one day. And so obviously they don't, in middle school, they didn't start anyone on French horn.
No.
You had started on a different brass instrument, and then you could move. And so I started on the trumpet, and then I was like, I want to play the French horn. And my band teacher was like, why do you want to do that? He's like, you're a great trumpet player. I was like, I don't want to play trumpet. I want to play French horn. So, but anyways, so I did that for a while. And that was actually good because, I was in band through puberty. And so, like before, like pre-puberty, I was a decent boy soprano, and I would sing in church.
Mm-hmm.
But then when everything changes, you have no idea.
And then your voice goes down. You went up, but your voice went down.
Yeah. And it's like and that's what my dad always said too. He was like, yeah, you had a good boy soprano voice, but there's no telling what happens to the voice after your balls drop and everything changes.
Yeah.
But fortunately, so I kind of threw that change, and it can be, and if you start, if you start training a male voice too young, like if you start training them before puberty and then you try to train them through puberty, it can be very, I'm not going to say you could develop like vocal damage, but it can be tough because, there's your voice is going to crack, and it's really not advised anymore to start training the male voice before puberty. And so, band was a good outlet for that because I learned, I learned rhythms and I learned how to read music. And so, yeah, but the one good thing I think that got me in sort of to performing and into like musical art was my community had a very, very good theater program, community theater and youth theater. And so I did a lot of musicals. Like every summer there was
man, where are those videos?
Yeah, I'll have to find them. But there's like
some.
Do I have to go to your brother to go to your mom to get them?
Probably, yeah. My dad used to have some stuff up on YouTube, and I was like, Dad, you got to take that down. Like, I can't have that up anymore.
It's ruined my cred.
People do a YouTube search when you're job hunting, and they pull that up.
Yeah, they pull out "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" from when I was like 16.
12. Oh, okay. That's not.
Yeah, but that's really where I fell in love with the stage and with acting and with that type of music and that type of performance.
Yeah, because that's a whole other trade or skill set, acting. Because like, to my mind, there's only like a handful of actors that can both sing and act and do well equally. So like, to be able to do both of them, have you found that like has made your job search or like your contract search a little bit easier?
Yeah, it's it does, but at a certain you get to a certain level, and you guys probably know this, like everyone can do everything well, and so it's while they are good skills to have, it's like you can line up like 4 or 5 different people and they can all be singing the same thing and sound exactly alike, and then it really just comes down to kind of a taste of what the director looking for.
Politics.
You know, certain look. Exactly. And but you know, having that experience from a young age was it's so beneficial for just not even music, for just being able to be a better public speaker, and just for confidence building and you know, team building. And there's so many things that I learned on that stage that were directly applicable to, you know, everything else I was doing at the time, and you know, how you work with people, and you know, trying to put yourself in other people's shoes, which is what, you know, people should do more of. Well, it says my internet's unstable, so I apologize.
That's anything that, like, with any job, you'll have that. You just have the misfortune to be working with a bunch of divas. So,
well, he doesn't have to worry about divas too much. What's the male equivalent of a diva or prima donna?
Yeah, I mean, Devo is like the male version of a diva.
Is everybody just like chill? Just like, what up?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely personalities. Like, there are certain types of singers, and it's like any, I guess, but it's the same thing for like actors or other performing arts. Like everyone has their ticks, everyone has their quirks, and just some people, I don't know, it's just more pronounced in some people than in others.
It's the same like in rock and roll, Nate.
Yeah. Some
people are generally just nice people and want to talk to you, and others just douchebags.
That's life.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your profession.
No, art reflects life, and life is found in art.
Yep.
What, Nate? Where were we going?
Question. I wanted to know why you picked statistics as your double major.
Well, it was originally math, and so
okay.
I was kind of getting sick of proving why the sum of 2 even numbers is never odd. Or sorry, I think. Well,
do you want something more like applicable and not too much
also
philosophical?
Yeah, exactly. Why the sum of 2 odd numbers is always even. I was like, why do I need to prove that? And it was actually in a conversation with Kevin, actually, that I decided to switch.
Oh,
if you believe it or not.
Yeah. Nice.
Kevin was one of our roommates. And, yeah, it was, and he was actually the one who was like, a friend of mine is majoring in statistics, and it's a very applicable field, and blah blah blah. All these jobs are gonna open up X% or whatever. And I was like, interesting, statistics. And so I'd already done a lot of the prereqs already. So
statistically, your job opportunities go high.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I picked statistics.
Have you been able to use that in the music world at all?
In the music world, not really. Everyone's impressed by it, but I haven't really been able to use it.
So you're creative and you can do math. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was helpful for there are always ways that I'm trying to to bring that over into music more. Like, I would definitely say my job now, or my part-time job now, is as a product manager, is more, I don't really use statistics much. Like I did when I first arrived, because the product I was managing was like very statistics heavy in the methodology that I used. And so that was like, it was nice to have that background. But I would say now I'm delving more into sort of computer science and data analytics techniques, which the statistics helps with, but wasn't things I necessarily learned in undergrad. Like, luckily I had exposure to like R and other, software computing tools and things like that. But
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to think of ways to optimize music, and at least my own studies, because a lot of like singers unfortunately can't, well, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, there's sort of and Phil knows about this, but there's sort of a stereotype of the dumb lazy singer. And no, you're not ringing a bell.
I've never heard or seen of that.
I think some of it stems from the fact that we're not like a cellist or a pianist or other instrumentalists where we can't practice like 8 hours a day. It's just physically not possible. Like, this will get tired.
Yeah. You can't do it with these either.
Yeah, you can't, but we can practice
more and longer. Yeah. But I never subscribed to that mantra, 8 hours a day thing. Nah.
Yeah.
And that's why you're not doing music professionally.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head, buddy. That's why I talk to musicians.
Yeah.
Coaches don't play, man. Yeah. Coaches don't play.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you go to JMU, you graduate. I know you did some competitions. Was that what launched you into what you're doing now at Julliard? Is it competing and getting your name out there?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, after undergrad, I didn't feel particularly ready for a master's, and that was usually the next move is go get your master's or go somewhere where they'll pay you to do it. And I just didn't feel ready. And so I was like, well, let me just work for a little bit and still try to study and still sort of freelance a little bit and do some competitions. And so, I did really the big competition I did right out of school was the Nats Young Artist Program, Nats Artist Award competition. And I had pretty good success there. And I was the national runner-up. The guy who won first place he's
Julliard. So what's the application process look like to even go to school past your undergrad?
Yeah, it's there's a pre-screening component. So you have to, there's a list, there's a criteria of like, you must have one song in French, one song in German, and
like a portfolio requirements or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. And so you have to record those and send those in, and then they have your transcripts. And then if they like you, they'll pass you on to a live audition. And fortunately, I was able to live audition right before the COVID shut everything down. And that audition process was, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, no. One of the judges was not feeling well at the time, but it wasn't COVID, but it was.
Oh, that's good.
hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, there's that portfolio requirement, and then there's a live audition, so they hear you live, and then for Julliard there was another. After that, there was a callback, and in that callback, you worked specifically with a pianist, and they kind of coached you on the repertoire to see how you worked as an artist and how to see if you play nice and can take criticism, and if you're really serious about improving. And so yeah, that was the process, and I always knew I wanted to go back. I just wasn't ready. I didn't feel ready when I was 22, and my fiance, well, my wife.
Rain?
That's
a train.
Okay, because it's monsooning over here, and I didn't know.
Yeah,
that's the A1.
This is the Long Island Railroad.
Okay,
so we live right by
We're at Long Island
Railroad. Little Neck.
Okay, how far east is that?
It is. It's not that far. It's still technically in Queens.
Okay,
but we can like throw a rock, and it's technically Nassau County.
Gotcha.
Great Neck. So
I have a friend that lives in Amity. So.
Oh, nice.
And
yeah, I pay New York City taxes without really the benefits.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're close enough to be able to get there from public transit.
Oh yeah, no, I am.
And that, we were trying to plan a trip to go out to visit some friends last time we were up in New York, on like farther out on Long Island, and it was like an hour and a half drive. And I was like, do you want to take a bus? It's like, fuck no.
Damn.
It's like trains don't go out that far either, man.
That's crazy.
So what for you have you noticed much in your transition from being an artist as an undergrad and now being an artist now in grad school?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That is a really good question.
I think.
Did it suck the fun out of it?
Oh, wait, what was that?
To take the fun out of it, like now you're getting paid for it, so it's a little different than you're doing it for.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, a little bit. I think the biggest difference is I have a better idea of what I want to do. Like in undergrad, it was very much like, okay, you seemingly have a great talent for this. Like, let's nurture this and try to figure it out. And it was all about just improving as much as you can
in 4 years, as fast as you can. Yep.
Yeah, and just like trying out so many different things and trying to learn as much repertoire as you can, and get more comfortable on stage and get more comfortable with the languages. And then the biggest change in, I think, grad school is then even further nuance and further dedication to the study of the languages and the styles.
Diction.
Exactly. And just like
German's all garbage.
All I can think of is, have you guys seen Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly?
Yes.
Have you? Okay. I love the scene where the voice coach is trying to coach what's her name with like the thickest New Jersey accent in the world on how to like have a radio friendly voice, and she just like can't do it.
Yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
You have to like. Oh no, Nate, go ahead.
You know what, Phil? All right. No, do you have to learn how much of the language do you have to learn, or is it literally just lyrics to the song?
Yeah, there's it's like there's a couple schools of thought. One school of thought used to be like, you have to be fluent in every language you sing in, which is not technically true. Like, yes, you need to be able to, you need to know every single word that's in front of you. You need to know what it means, and you need to know how to pronounce it correctly and sound like a native. Yes, that is super important.
But in native, like, where? Like the low country versus high country?
Yeah, usually there's some standards. So like for German, it's
Germany's got dialects that are all over the place.
Yeah. Usually it's like standard Hochdeutsch, High Deutsch, which is, so yeah, we're not going to be doing it, but it depends. I mean, like I'm sure it, like when you do an opera in English, you kind of think about dialects, and I'm sure in Germany when they're doing, like I've listened to recordings of German opera in Germany, and the German will vary depending on where you are. Like if you're in Bavaria, it sounds different.
Did you all know that, so for Terminator, Schwarzenegger didn't dub his German dubs? Because his accent is like super hick in Germany. And they didn't think that he'd be believable as like a killer robot as a German speaker.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
So
very interesting.
He speaks hick German, but he's from Austria.
Right, yeah.
I mean, they still speak German in Austria, right?
No. Do you speak Austrian? Am I right? Am I wrong?
What?
Am I losing it? Rick, you're the smart one here.
I think they speak some German in Austria.
Some do, yeah.
Bruna had to get something off of her desk and was like army crawling behind me.
Hey, Bruna. We have another guest on.
Third guest.
Yeah, German is according to Google, German is the official language of Austria.
Nate, you're right. Score 1 for Nate, 0 for Phil.
I did on TikTok.
So, okay.
But yeah,
back to my question.
So you have to at least know what the words say and how to say them.
Yeah, and I speak a little of all of them, not much. Like probably my worst language is French is probably my worst language, even though I think I remember the most about it from studying just because of the way I was taught. And then like over the summer I had a German course, and I've had some Italian. It's So.
What's your favorite language to sing in?
Ooh, my favorite language to sing in. I don't know if I have a favorite. I would.
Or does it depend on the part in that language?
Yeah, it probably depends a little bit on the role. Yeah, I would honestly say it's varied. Like when I was an undergrad, I didn't like to sing in English much. Because I felt like too much of my natural speaking voice would kind of creep in.
You don't drawl though.
Yeah, I don't.
Never drawled in to hear me. Like when I hear you, you've never drawled in English.
Yeah, I do. But I think it's more of
I draw real good.
When you were trying to learn at least to sing opera, you're always singing in a different language.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's something to do with like the mechanism, and it's easier to try to create new sounds, or because like there are a lot of the pure vowel sounds that you find in Italian, they don't exist in English. Same with like French or German. There are a lot of there are a lot of sounds that don't exist in our language. And so when I was an undergrad, when I wasn't really exactly sure of everything that was happening in my body, I feel like it was harder to sing in English. But now English is one of my favorite languages to sing in since I figured it out. But I would say I really like singing in French right now. Italian's good. I like singing in German too, because the consonants they're so fun.
Just hard. They're hard.
Yeah. And everyone thinks like you can't sing German legato, but you can't sing like nice smooth lines. But I mean, you can. You just have to embrace the.
Can you hit us something with it right now? Do you have something for us
in German?
Yes.
Well, I'm working
viral,
on.
Baby.
I'm working on the opera that we're doing in the spring, later in April, and there's just a lot of consonants. So it's like the only line I can think of right now is "Warte nur du falsche Schlange," which means just you wait, you like false snake, essentially.
Can you sing that for us?
It's like "Warte nur du falsche Schlange, warte nur du falsche Schlange." Das ist schon gut. Like that's not my real voice, but that's sort of the.
Nate, you try now. That's a no. It's okay.
I was gonna say, is this what this has come down to?
No.
Yeah, pass that Cosmo through to me, and then I'll.
Yeah.
Well, without using a real voice, that sounded wonderful.
Yeah, well, that's like sort of like, so I'm not gonna like just bust out into it right now. Sorry, guys.
I was hoping you could take us out on like an aria or something.
There's some clips. I'll send you a couple clips.
Yeah, send us some clips.
Okay.
And we will post them. They should be fun.
Yep.
So one question that I like to ask
voice.
a lot of our guests, especially people that have skills that could be like cross applied to like movies or television. I feel like in every spy movie, there's always like that opera scene. There's like a heist during an opera or a fight scene during an opera. Like, does knowing how that stuff works like take it out of you, take you out of the illusion a little bit? I think in, what was it, Mission Impossible 5, there's a scene where there's like they go through a mission at an opera house while an opera's going on, and I was like,
oh, I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've seen it.
Curious to see. Might have been James Bond, not positive, but
I know in one of the Sherlock Holmes they're doing Don Giovanni, and like, actually no, I think it adds a level, because most of the time I know what the opera is, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, and you can start to try to think of the levels at which they're.
Because they went through the thought process of what opera should we do, and so like that could be.
It's always Don Giovanni.
Yeah, most of the times it is. It's some Mozart opera.
Because it's most intense.
Interesting.
At least in my mind.
Or like
that's my reason. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
What about the one where Batman's parents die?
I thought they went to the movies.
No, in Batman Begins, it's the opera.
Oh. Okay, Christopher Nolan.
I don't remember what opera it is.
Well, that was my question.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nate.
I mean, Chris Dudley was like, yeah, scores are great. I like all of them. Music.
That's, yeah. So, Eric, you've been doing music now, I don't know, at least half your life. What do you do to unwind from it? Or is it just a constant for you that you can't put down?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something I have to like put down. You can come say hi, Abby. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know with the cello you can put down, but your voice you carry with it.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's always something, and the nice thing about it, and maybe, with any sort of music, is when you love it, it doesn't feel like a chore. I mean, obviously sometimes it does. Like, there's no getting around that.
Yeah. There's always parts about any creative job that suck.
Yeah. And it's the same is true with voice, or with music. But I would say in my free time, I'm a really big, like, sports guy. Mm. And so like a lot of my friends in high school were big sports guys. And so
how about the new Redskins name?
Yeah.
Not sure how I feel about it.
Phil?
I don't know. I don't think it's much of a improvement.
I was kind of hoping they would just leave the Washington football team. I thought it was I kind of liked it. It was.
I didn't know
that was the football team.
I didn't know that the football team of all of the football teams. We are the football team.
Yeah. Commanders.
Yeah.
If they start winning with the name. Yeah, I know it was ridiculous. It took them 2 years.
All I can think of is the South Park episode.
I think they potentially maybe, and I mean, this is just pure conjecture at this point, but I think they probably wanted Guardians, but then when Cleveland, the baseball team, when they changed their name to the Guardians, I feel like Washington was probably like, oh crap, because Guardians would have been cool, like,
as opposed to Cleveland Browns.
No, the baseball team.
They
went from the Indians to the Guardians now, because the word Indian is now faux pas.
So Indians is bad, Browns is okay.
because it's named after somebody.
Oh,
They're the Bears.
oh, what's his name?
Their
From Family
mascot's
Guy,
Bears.
right?
What was that name?
Cleveland Brown.
Yes.
Named after Cleveland Brown.
This is why Nate's not allowed to talk about sports on this podcast.
I understand, Phil. That was a joke.
Not allowed.
Yeah, I don't do sports.
Yeah, big fantasy guy. Probably bigger fantasy baseball than football, but I just do it because everyone else does it.
I remember a friend in high school tried to get me to have a fantasy baseball team, and I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
I get about to like the All-Star game now, and then I kind of interest.
It's hard. It's a grind. It takes a
but all that collusion going on in the Grendahl household.
Well, yeah, Abby doesn't play that much anymore, so.
No, she's got her hands in somebody's, stomach.
Pretty much. You're not wrong. Yeah, she's in medical school, 3rd year.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We've been watching a lot of Castle and the scenes.
Oh yeah, we're watching Castle right now too.
Nice. How far in are you?
We're how far are we? We're in like 2nd season. We're not that far.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We just finished season 5, I think.
Oh, nice.
My wife loves it. It's like fun. One of her favorite shows, and I prefer it to The Office. So we've been watching Castle.
Yeah.
Not a big Office.
I just watch my wrestling.
We know, Phil. We know.
That's right.
I'm going to pat you on the head.
Do you see me and Jordan? We were on TV. It was great.
You were on TV?
Yeah.
You have to send me the clip.
Oh shit. Well, just never mind. I'll send you the episode and you'll see us.
Okay.
A lot.
That's awesome.
So we're in the front row.
What has been the biggest non-musical advice that you've applied to your musical career?
Ooh. The biggest non-musical advice?
It could be like life advice or like
to your musical career.
Like productivity advice or like...
I have to think on that one.
We like to hit you with the hard stuff.
I don't think it's harsh, just off the wall.
Yeah, I think... that could be... Did you hear that?
No, Abby, please come on camera.
They want you to come on camera.
No.
Okay. Now, my wife is trying to tell me that the biggest thing in life is not what you achieve, which is good. Like that is very applicable music because like there's no, like what is a career in music? Like you have to, at least in the opera world, you have to have a very clear definition of that because it's not like you make the NFL and then, you've made it or you're drafted. It's just kind of like you're going. And then if you're getting work, that's great. And if it's not at maybe the house you want, like.
Yeah, I always struggle with creative goals. Like I have, like people I'd like to work with or publications I'd like to be a part of. But as far as like actually doing the job, it's like you're doing what you enjoy and people are paying you money to do it. That is good enough for me.
Exactly.
Nate's an illustrator, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we just had a Jamie professor on a couple months ago. It was a lot of fun. So
that's awesome.
You
get it.
Who's the Tom Brady of opera? Like, what does it look like to get to that level?
Well, no one's Tom Brady. Come on now. No one's TB12.
Yeah. The hard thing is like Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls and like 3 MVPs, right? 3 MVPs,
I think,
5 Super Bowl MVPs, I think. And so he's got all of these and all these records and things that really make him sort of undisputed, in my opinion. The hard thing about opera is you don't really have that in a way.
There's no like Oscars for opera.
Oh yeah, I mean there are Grammys. There are classical music Grammys. You could use that in your equation. I never thought about really using that, but yeah, you could definitely use that. But there's just so many levels because like you have, at least there's such a word of mouth tradition with with opera singers, like people talking about like Caruso and all of these old singers who are like the greatest of all time, that people would say like, oh, they were real singers that could fill the house and blah blah blah. But there's really no, like, all the recordings that we have of them, if they exist, are not great. There's really no way to tell. They don't really hold a candle to the recording that we can do today. But I mean, it's so subjective. Like I don't even know if I could name like one person who was like the greatest opera singer of all time. I think a lot of people will tell you Enrico Caruso, but
so let's say you're performing in an opera. It's recorded live for reproduction, like, and people like buy the CDs or whatever of this opera, this play. How do they, since it's mostly like, I don't want to say acoustic driven, but like, the instruments, are they recorded individually? Like everything's mic'd up. Like, how do you record something like that that's designed to be experienced live?
Yeah. Phil, you probably know a little bit about this, but at least if you're recording something live in a house, you're really, the great thing about opera and about classical singing is that there's so many highs and lows, and you want to really try to capture that with your recording equipment. So a lot of the recording will be like stereo, I think is the right word. Like it's not going to be like a studio where you're trying to get as clean of like a kind of a clean, almost dry sound. I think is, I don't know if that's the right term, because like with pop recording and other things like that, you're going to mess with the levels anyways, and it's going to be, you can turn it up, turn it down, but there's not going to be a whole lot of peaks and valleys.
You're really capturing the sound of the house and how that sound is projected into the house. And I know now it's popular to do the head miking individual actors and performers now, and then you probably have a couple condensers set up around the orchestra, and that's it, really.
Yeah. And then if you're doing like a studio album, that's a little different. You might do more of like maybe a pop setting, but you're going to be adding in some reverb and trying to make it sound like they're in a hall, so you get what it seems like the voice would sound like in a bigger space. But yeah, it's very different from recording. Like I've been having to do a lot more recordings on my own now for competitions and for young artist applications and things. And it's been a learning curve. I think everyone's been having to like research the tech and figure all that stuff out.
What is
you always have a, I don't know, expert. I'm not an expert. If you need help, give me a call.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have a music industry degree, so you're
bona fide.
More of an expert than.
I'm in video now. I do video.
Oh, nice.
I apologize if I've been like super fidgety. My back is like crazy sore, and this chair does not do it any favors.
Now that I can't help you. Maybe Abby can diagnose your issue.
No, it's from the gym. It's self-inflicted.
You masochist.
What is the primary difference between Broadway and opera?
Ooh, primary difference. I should probably know more about the difference, but really, I think the biggest difference, it's like in Broadway's, or a Broadway musical, most of them are going to be in English. There's going to be like musical numbers separated with dialogue, potentially. And singers are going to be mic'd. And nowadays, there's going to be more sort of popular music themes, I would say. Mm-hmm. And it's just the style of singing is a little different. With opera, it's going to be, unamplified usually. Some of them contemporary operas, I think they're starting to mic singers. But it's going to be unamplified over, huge orchestras in different languages. And there's not going to be... some operas have like, they're called Singspiels, Like Magic Flute, for example, has musical numbers, but there is dialogue in between. So in that way, it is very much like, it is very much like a musical. But it's just the style of singing and then other languages.
Are people writing new operas, or is it mostly like revising old ones?
Yeah, a lot of it is revising old ones, or not necessarily revising, but or reviving. I would say reviving old ones. But some are also, some are also revising old ones and kind of taking it apart and repurposing it. But yeah, no, people are writing new opera, and it's trying to think of some that have come out in the past year. I'm actually working on a new opera right now, and it'll have its premiere this summer. So yeah,
where at?
Santa Fe.
Right on. Yeah. You going to be down in Santa Fe?
I will be in Santa Fe. Yeah, I'm covering the baritone in M Butterfly, the new opera out there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Everybody, this spring, get your ticket
on the West Coast.
Yeah, out in the desert.
I remember you talked a little bit about training a male voice too early, and how traditionally like bass roles go to older men. What is like the split look like between the major different tones? Is somebody like who has a specific voice like cursed because that type of role, like the turnover is so low? Like what is that like that cycle look like, and is there a way to become more adaptable?
That's a great question. There are the major voice types in opera. You have sopranos, you have mezzo sopranos, you have tenors. You have countertenors as well, and tenors, bass or baritones, bass baritones, and then baritones. And I don't think I really left anyone out. But within each...
Oh, my Lord. I didn't even realize there were bass baritones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there were 4.
Yeah, and then within each voice, there's the Germans came up with a system called the Fach system, F-A-C-H.
Nice.
And essentially means like drawer, I believe is like like
a dresser.
Yeah, like a drawer. And so what they've done is they created sub-classifications for each voice part based off of the technical demands of opera roles or just demands of the singing. So like I'm a baritone, for example. So within my voice type, there's what you call a lyric baritone, which is more or less what I am. They sing not necessarily lighter stuff, but they have a lighter color to their voice, and they do sing lighter music and are more lyrical and can sing high.
Less just like simple vocalizing, like background music.
Yes, yeah, sort of.
Like you actually have like script.
You have a script?
Like you're working off of a role versus like just being like ambient.
Oh yeah. Everything is like a
everyone has a part, Nate.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
But it depends on the musical line.
Yeah,
how well can your voice adapt to that line?
Exactly. And the orchestration, because like if you're having to sing over 500 trumpets, like my voice couldn't do that.
Nope.
But there are some voices who, because of the size and the nature of their voice, they can cut through the orchestra and you could hear them. And so that, for example, would be like a dramatic baritone or a Verdi baritone in it. And then you have like...
Find me one.
A Verdi
I need
baritone?
to hear this.
Yeah, a really great one right now is Cheryl Milnes is probably one of the greatest examples of like a dramatic Verdi baritone. But right now, Quinn Kelsey, he just is singing Rigoletto at the Met. He's amazing, Verdi dramatic baritone right now. And I unfortunately wasn't able to hear his Rigoletto at the Met this year. Hopefully I can go in the spring, but they just have like a different. It's just a bigger voice and more dramatic and richer in color.
Is that for the most part biological, or can you train to be like that?
Yeah, you can train to be like that to a certain extent, but some of it really is just physical makeup of the voice, and some voices are just naturally lighter and some are naturally darker. The rarer voices are like the dramatic voices, and then you even have like Helden tenors and Helden baritones that they sing mostly like Wagner, and it's a special kind of voice that takes longer to develop. And so each voice type has these classifications. Like there's a dramatic soprano, there's a lyric soprano, there's dramatic tenor, and same with like basses. You have like super duper low basses, which are like basso profundo. And
sounds like a spell in Harry Potter.
Yeah. But most operas are, the two leads will be like a soprano and a tenor. Like those will be the main leads. The baritone is usually like the bad guy or the father or something, and then the bass is normally a bad guy, and the mezzos are usually like the third lady, or the maid, or the mom, or something like that. So there are a lot of opera cliches. The cool thing about, at least new opera in America is they've everything has kind of switched a little bit. Like a lot of the new leading male roles are being written for baritones, because baritone is one of the most common voice parts. Like most men are baritones, and so they're like creating a role of the people that's representative of everyone, instead of like in previous years, and like when opera in the 1800s, like the tenor voice was super heroic and super exciting, and so the lead roles would go to the tenors. But tenors are they're harder to find. They're rarer, and it's harder to
job
develop.
security.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're a tenor and you're a good tenor, like 100%, you should give opera a try.
Are they the lazy singers?
I wouldn't say, yeah. There is a stereotype of lazy tenors. I wouldn't necessarily say they're lazy, but there is definitely like there's definitely a stereotype with tenors. Like they take a lot of they're the butt of a lot of jokes. But a lot of it is warranted, because like, I'm trying to remember who said it. I think it was Roberto Alagna, is a famous tenor, and he was just saying, singing as a tenor is just not natural. Like it's not human, like to sing that high. And so it is very stressful for tenors, because a lot of them are singing notes at the very peak of or like the end of their range. Where like me, for example, I don't always I have notes above where I usually sing, but I don't really have to sing those in public. So it is a little more comforting knowing that, oh yeah, if I had to, there are a couple other notes that are a little bit higher that I could sing those. But like for a tenor, some of them, like they're singing notes that, on a good day will come out, but maybe not on a bad day. And so there is a little bit more stress involved with that. So I cut him some slack.
So the stereotype about the lazy tenor, I wanted to ask a little bit about does opera have like a season? Like there's like Oscar season, it's like the fall. And then B, what is like the training for a specific role versus performance cycle? How does that go?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's
like, is it possible to like be super hardworking and like get really far in the opera world, or is it mostly just kind of like as roles come up, you take them?
Yeah, it's I guess the first question, there is like a season. There's typically it's like from the fall, like an opera house will have a season where they put on about 3 to 4 operas a year. like just your typical house, like the Met, they're a repertory theater, so they have so many productions that they're doing all the time. But like just a typical like WNO or, Virginia Opera or something, they'll do like 3 to 4 operas a year, and they'll start in the fall and they'll end in the spring, and then they'll be off in the summer. And then there are, opera programs that only have like a summer festival, like Santa Fe Opera, for example. They only do shows in the summer. Or like Opera Theater St. Louis has a big summer season. They do shows throughout the year as well, but they have a big summer festival. And I'm trying to think of some others. But so the typical season is that's the typical season. And then
does that include training for the show?
Not really. So
you audition for a role, you get accepted, and then you have a given, pre-production essentially to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like usually there's like, if you're auditioning for a role, you audition. And then if you're cast, there's either like one of two things happen. If you've already done the role before, that's great because you know it. And then there's not as much prep that goes into it. But if it's a role you don't know, you have to learn the music, you have to learn the language. You then usually have to like coach it with someone, and you should coach it with someone who can play the piano and help you through the role, so that you can get in your voice and see how it feels. Because when you show up on day one, day one of a production, because usually it's like, depending on the production, it'll be like 3 to 4 weeks, and then of like 3 to 4 weeks of like staging and rehearsals, and then you have all of the shows, and then it's done. And so when you show up on day one, you're expected to know everything. And if you don't, it's you can get that's the quickest way to end your career is not being prepared. And so if usually in the months leading up to like a contract, you'll be preparing that role. And I think was there one other part of the question? I
mean, the other question was like, is it possible to like be overzealous and like take on every role you can? But that question probably is more applicable to just being the best at the role you're given.
Oh yeah, you can definitely bite off more than you can chew, and that's a good problem to have. But I don't know. Usually, the singers at the top of the industry, top of their career, have like made a name singing a particular opera role. So it's something they've done several times. And it's something that they could probably, on a moment's, some of the best of them, they've done it so much that, you could call them and be like, and some of them have done this. They're like, hey, we need, our baritone dropped out. Can you fly in and sing the role tonight? And, people who know the role can do that. And so there eventually gets to a point in time where you've done a lot of the same stuff. And so there's not as much, you can start to take on more roles and more things like you were saying earlier, Nate. But sort of in the early get-go, it depends on how quickly you learn music and how quickly and like your skills of that, because it takes a while to really get something in your body and to feel like you really know it.
What preparatory steps can someone take? So let's take an athlete training, for football season or whatever. They don't know exactly what plays they're going to be running in, the playoffs or whatever, but they do run plays, they do train in the summer and the off season, to prepare for that. Like, even if you're not currently working on a given role, what can an opera singer do to like train themselves to either be more adaptable or to learn stuff faster? Like, what does the off season look like for that?
Yeah. I mean, consistent practice is like number one, and getting to a point where your technique is solid. because if, some operas are 3-4 hours long, and it's some even longer than that. And so you have to
just sit there and hyperventilate for 3 hours.
Yeah.
To prepare your diaphragm for all of them.
Yeah. And not every singer is singing for that long, but you really have to work on your technique to be able to do that night in and night out. And so that's what the off season really looks like is practicing and making sure your technique is sound so that you can take on various roles and not get a vocal injury. There are a lot of exercises you can do, and of course you can the benefit of like you're saying, like when athletes don't know, they know the plays they're going to run, but they don't know exactly what the defense is going to do or something like that. And with opera, at least you sort of know with an opera score, you at least have like a game plan of what you're supposed to be singing. And then I guess what the thing you really can't control is performing it is an audience member's phone going to go off right before you have to hit that high note, or is it going to be super dry in the theater, and so like some of that stuff you can't prepare for as much. But it's interesting you bring up the athletes, because more and more a lot of this performance psychology is starting to creep into performing arts. And like last semester I had a class in performance psychology, and there's so much like vocal training that goes into it, but there's a lot of mind training that goes into it as well, of trying to quiet the nerves before you do an audition, or quiet the nerves and figure out how to focus for 4 hour show, and so that you can make sure you're really at the top of your game. And so a lot of it is similar to what athletes do. But like, in terms of like the training, it's you just can kind of consistent practice and trying to sing through the role as much as possible and getting in your voice. And so you have a certain level of stamina is probably the best thing you can do in the off season.
Yeah, it's weird because like growing up, creatives were always taught to find another job. Like, it's just a hobby. Like it's a flighty or, whimsical, like art, the creation of art is like a whimsical task. Like, but for professionals, it's not, you have to, I think you said earlier, like obsess over it. And it is a job. It is work. Any performing art, I can't even imagine. Like I knew a girl that I think she was a dancer. I'm not sure. I think she went to JMU. But like I knew her brother, and he was like scared that one day she would like sprain her ankle, like something would go wrong and like just be out of a job for weeks.
Yeah.
The mental fortitude that goes into that duration of a production is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're probably going to wrap this up here soon. Erik, do you have any final advice or a parting nugget for listeners, maybe young aspiring opera
how does someone
singers
get into opera singing? Like, what is the road to that success look like?
I think there's so many different ways, I think, but the biggest is just being exposed to it. Like that's what made me fall in love with it, is when I saw my first opera and I was like, wow, this, because it really, there's really nothing quite like the sound, because it just the fact that we can make that sound, or humans can make that sound, is truly amazing. And then when you have that in such a large space with like string instruments and with brass instruments, and the first opera I saw was La Boheme, and it was kind of overwhelming, like this. And Puccini's like that. He was a master at harnessing that emotion and creating that in his music. And it just gave me goosebumps, and just it feels so like you're just engaged, because it's just like it's nothing you've ever heard before, or at least for me.
What's a good beginner opera for people that have never seen opera before? Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Usually, there's a funny phrase in opera that it says like you always go by the ABCs of opera, which is your Aida, Bohème, and Carmen. Like those are probably the three most performed operas. But
By
I would
Carmen,
say,
you mean like the gospel singer?
No.
Okay, good.
No, yeah. Bizet's Carmen. But I would say La Bohème by Puccini is a great sort of starter opera. Mm-hmm. It's not too long. It's the music is absolutely gorgeous. That's a good one. I would say Tosca is another Puccini opera. It's it's about 2 hours long. The music is absolutely gorgeous. And the drama is good too. It's got a good plot. And then those are two good beginner operas, I would say. And then if I had to give like maybe one more, I would say Carmen. Carmen's a fun opera too, because you're going to recognize the music. Any opera that you can go in and have already a sort of an idea of what the music can sound like, you're going to, in my experience, you're going to be more engaged with it. And that's the hardest thing about opera, is, especially in the States, is because of the language barrier, it's harder to appreciate. So also,
do they have subtitles for non-English? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh yeah. And then also, if go see any opera in English, because it's probably a newer opera, and a lot. It's they're all pretty. There's some pretty good new ones out there that are. So yeah, those are kind of those would be my couple to get your foot in the door.
Sweet.
Nate, how can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram, just at Erik Grendahl. Check out my website, Grendahl. You can check out my website, erikgrendahl.com. Has like my performing stuff on it, a couple links to things.
Woo!
And yeah.
Well, thanks for
any upcoming roles
with us.
Any upcoming performances, Erik, that people should know about? In March, I was one of the Julliard Vocal Arts Honors Recital winners. So every year the voice faculty puts up a group of singers that then auditions for people in the industry that select, 2 winners to present a recital. So I was one of the 2 winners, fortunately. Heck yeah.
And thankfully. So that's coming out.
Did you say unfortunately?
No, I said fortunately.
Fortunately,
no,
okay.
No, very grateful for that. And so that's coming up in, I think, March 17th. There might be a live stream to that.
Heck yeah.
Then my graduation recital is in end of March 26th. That'll be live streamed, as well as here in New York at 8:30. And then I'm covering in the Julliard Opera here in April. And then for the summer, I'm heading out to Santa Fe to sing in the choruses out there, as well as singing a role. I'm singing a role in Tristan und Isolde by Wagner.
You're not.
Steuermann. Yeah, I'm singing Steuermann. He's got one line, but it's a role nonetheless.
Hey, it's a role.
So I'm super excited for that. And then
I was just thinking about that.
One last question before we close. So when you say you're flying out to Santa Fe, do they like put you up in a hotel for the duration of the process, or like do you temporarily like move out there for 6 months?
Yeah, I'll temporarily be out there for like the whole summer. So
Gotcha.
I gotta find a place. Some places will put you up, some of them don't, but they give you
get an Airbnb. They might have like a discount for like longer stays.
Yeah, for sure. And I have a couple friends who are also going out there, so we're gonna try to live together.
There you go.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Opera house.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Thanks for coming by and talking with us.
Sorry, I was late.
Hey,
no,
it's
I was
okay.
a little late too.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, everybody, stay hungry,
Oh, stay safe.
stay creative.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Eric.